Hello, everybody. I tried to do a live stream a little bit earlier, but got a little chilly. I got a little too rambly. I'm still, I'm doing better this week, but I'm still somewhat sad. um, but I'm trying to move forward. Um, my kids only have a couple weeks until their Orla classes start, and we are already kind of looking at our homeschool progress of where we're at in different subjects and planning kind of our attack, so to speak. Oh, and isn't this lovely? This is a Celtic dragon style bag. Isn't it cool? I also have like a mermaid one in purple and black I really like. Anyways, love those Celtic knotwork kind of things. So I will try not to be too rambly, but although there's a lot of different subjects in my head right now, and I really just want to make sure I at least do a weekly musings with everybody, even if I do nothing else, as I am trying to figure out what I'm doing, how I'm going to do things, stuff like that. And I know I'm not the most popular blogger out there, but this helps give me some structure and focus in a way. So I am really excited in some ways and almost giving like extra homework to myself. My youngest wants to do D&D, and I love Critical Role, and it was a great excuse to go out and get some beautiful dice because I like dice. I don't know why. I just like rolling dice. Yahtzee was one of my favorite games as a kid, even though I'm not great at math. I just really enjoyed it. The sound, it even comes with a lovely set of dice as well. It's actually a 6 instead of a 7 set, which was unfortunate because there's a really cool die that comes in the 7 set. But anyways, I found out that we had randomly bought a few different kinds of die recently that provides the missing one that's missing in the set that came with the starter set for getting going with D&D. And also, well, basically, my youngest boy wanted to get into another style of gaming because he finds board games a little bit boring. He has ADHD or ADD, and I have it as well, but you know, it shows differently in girls than in boys. And I'm trying to do anything I can to encourage reading, any kind of simple math skills, anything like that. And he really loves to tell stories in his head. He likes to run through scenarios. He's similar to me in that I used to do that as well. And he found like the expense of getting into, say, like Warhammer with having to get a starter kit of models and stuff was a bit much for us. But we felt like we could maybe run this starter kit with this adventure to let Griffin get a sample of what it's like to do live D&D with the dice and everything, because he felt like it would be so cool to do the character creations and things like that. Well, with the starter kit, you don't get to do character creations, but you can use the scenario and find other sources to help you do a character creation, in the sense that over on the D&D website, they have a core players book printable that you can use to do a starter character. It has, I think, 4 races and then so many of the basic classes, and you can get going with it and create your own character to play. So we did that, and oh my gosh, I feel like we got I got more homework out of all of it than he did. He only had so much patience for trying to reread things. I even used some YouTube videos. Thank you for those how to create a character. I will try to remember the YouTube, or I followed through a whole 5 sessions of figuring out the different points. It was very helpful, and I also had the reference books, of course, to help clarify a few things. I am happy that he is interested in something other than video games, even though this is another gaming system. And I'm going to help him see if he's interested in it. And then if he is, I'm actually going to encourage him. They have these things called Legends Leagues on Wednesdays through the D&D community that beginners and those who don't have a core group to play with can go and mix and practice and get to learn the game and all that stuff. So if it does turn out that he enjoys doing this with us, we're going to do that next. Or if it's too hard for me to run it, because basically as the mom, I have to run the game, which means I'm being dungeon master, which there's just so much to take in. I don't know if I can do this. But being a player sounds a lot more fun. So we may even just try. I will try to do it. And if I can't do it very well, I'm like, you know what? Mom's not the best at this. Let's go take you to the leagues, the Legends League, and see if you like that. I talked to a couple of local gamer stores, and they said actually Dungeons and Dragons can be very good for kids with ADHD or learning disabilities because it gets them to be involved in a way where it's not all paper. They get to actually interact. Yes, there's the prep, but then after you get past that, he one guy said, you know, he actually might be a great dungeon master because one of the problems Griffey has with games is waiting his turn. And the dungeon master doesn't have to wait a lot. He's involved in almost every turn, aside from the personal interactions with, say, the different players when they're role playing or something. Other than that, he's all the bad guys, he could be all the NCs or MPs, whatever, you know, he can be very involved and he won't have such long wait periods. He'll be very involved. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. He goes through interests in lots of things very quickly. So we'll have to see. One of the reasons I was willing to do this is he's been a little bit down on himself. He's become very aware that he learns differently, that he interacts differently. And since his birthday, he went from being really, really open and friendly and wanting to be very involved with his friends to very solitary and just wanting to video game and kind of cut himself off. And I don't know if it's a preteen adjustment or what, but I think it's also a realization of his differences when it comes to learning and stuff. I am in the process of trying to do the packets, get them turned into, get an IEP going to get him assistance in learning, because there's certain levels that with my own learning issues, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to continue teaching him on my own. Though I still feel I can do at least another year, if not two. And then I'm definitely going to have to hand it off to people more experienced than myself to help him along. I will, of course, still be involved, but there's a point when you need to let people who have better experience than you take over, you know, and guide him forward and help him move forward in a more independent way. So yeah, those are the challenges we're facing. And my older boy, he is willing to play. He thinks it will be fun. He's a stickler for rules, so I think he'll help a little bit with keeping both me and Griffin on track. He might even be a better dungeon master to think about, but I know he's not going to have the patience right now to read the books. There's like kind of a rules book, and then there's like the module to play through. And so, like I said, it's turned into a lot of homework for mom, but I'm willing to do it as we have a couple weeks before school starts. We homeschool, but we also participate in a program called Orla, which gives both core classes and elective classes, and it provides a pretty cool blend for homeschooling and yet still being involved in the public school system. So yeah, so fun stuff. Who doesn't love sparkly, cool looking dice? Pretty. And so that was fun. I am still working with my connection with my Brian Froud Oracle. Lots of fun there. I still haven't filled in my guide card. I think that's partially because as much as I love Brian Froud's Oracle, to me, nature spirits are really naturey. They're like beings that shape themselves similar to nature. So I have a hard time visualizing the Fae as the Fae we see in pictures and stuff like that, even though I feel like there's some true energy there and how it's coming through. So I am definitely working with that. Oh, and that leads me to another area. So let's move away from the D&D stuff. I'm really excited about that. I love Critical Role. It's opened up. I did some live action play when I was in college. So, you know, got to create a character, got to actually play and act out. It was a lot of fun. It took up my time for like 2 or 3 seasons. And yeah, it was a really awesome time period. So I'm hoping he'll reconnect and make some more mature friends through getting involved in the D&D community, because he's kind of went from a very out and anyways, he's had a personality shift, and I just want to make sure he's not going into depression or something, because I know that his realizing his levels in learning is like frustrating him. So anyways, let's see. Okay. So I have become aware of how certain things we use in our pagan spirituality as makeup or offerings and things like that, how some of them are not biodegradable. In particular today, I just wanted to talk about glitter. As part of it, I know people who like to go to fairy worlds and they get all dolled up and dressed in their, oh no, don't turn that on, you silly cats. I have a very noisy room air conditioner. He just wants to get to, here, come on, let me fix this. Come on, let me fix it. You just want to get to the window and I'm trying to move it. Oh gosh, stop. Stop. Move. Look, here, now you can get to the window. Look. Oh, anyways. Okay, sorry about that. He is very amusing. He's very inquisitive. He's also very heavy. He's like 15 pounds or something. And that is Thunderpaws, also known as Thunderbelly, Thunderlink, Thunderpurrs. He's Thunder. He is the newest addition to the family. We've had him since about December. And I believe when we got him, he was around 14 to 19 weeks old. They said that they weren't sure after they had taken him through another round with the vet exactly how old he was, but he was a kitten when we got him, and he was a rescue, and so they weren't too far off. They just, when we took him in after we got him, after having him for a few weeks, they said he seemed older than was initially thought. So very friendly. I think he's getting close to his 1 year mark. I think in late September or October, he'll be a year old. And he is a personality unto himself. Anyways, I wanted to talk about glitter because I became aware that not all, that glitter is not environmentally friendly. There is a bio glitter. And the reason I bring this up is that in some communities like the Fae spirituality community, who are really, say, those who are really into dressing up and emulating the Fae energy, or doing dance and belly dance and all this other stuff, tend to do body glitter. And also glitter is part of their offerings, giving beautiful things to the Fae. But glitter, some types of it is not environmentally friendly. And it gets into the waterways, it gets into the soil, it does not dissolve properly, it gets eaten and affects the animals. It's just not good. So let me see. I found some like natural biodegradable glitter. There's some on Etsy called Eco something. Something called Brambleberry. I have not used this. I'm just saying, look into it for yourself. For biodegradable glitter, because we really don't want to add to, pollution of the Mother Earth and all that kind of craziness. Evidently, there's many different kinds out there. There's cosmetic type. There is even glitter for crafts of different tiny little pieces to more chunky, large pieces that I guess are water sensitive or something like that. And yeah, just be very careful that it says that it's like biodegradable, that it will safely disperse in nature without becoming what they call micropollutants or something similar to that. And there was one UK one that I found that I thought sounded really good, but I forgot to write down the info, and I got distracted as usual by my little, by my boys. And I can't seem to find it right off the top here, and I'm very sorry for that. I meant to have that prepped. I will try to remember, and I know I'm not so good at this, to just look up biodegradable or eco-friendly glitter. Okay, I know that it looks like there's a few on Etsy. Again, I can't vouch for these different ones. I haven't used them. I don't use a lot of this stuff. I only bring it up because I saw some really cool little fairy houses and even some fairy practitioners who were wearing glitter, but I noticed the style that they were, and I had been made aware by some posts and a friend that not all glitter is safe, that it should be disposed of in certain ways. Oh, and here's my other kitty. This is my son's cat. Oh, she's not happy because I picked her up. This is Mittens. And she was 4 weeks when we got her, and I bottle fed her, I should say, and when she was little. And she's now around 6 or 7, so she is not a young pup herself either, but she's in pretty good health right now. We had to put collars on all our cats because we tried all kinds of natural stuff to get rid of the fleas, and we're still using some of the spray around the house, and that is effective, but we have to freshen it up every 4 to 5 days. And the cats were getting irritated being bathed so often. And then we discovered that our ferret had fleas like crazy, and we cannot get a flea collar for him because he weighs less than what most flea collars say you can use. You can use them on, what pets you can use them on. So we are now having to bathe him regularly, and we're hoping that we can just weed out the little critters over time. We don't have a safe place to take our pets, so we can flea bomb the house, and so we're just having to do what we can a bit at a time. I really want to use the powder on the carpets, but I haven't gotten my husband to agree to that yet. We all have different sensitivities in the house, so even myself, I'm a little concerned about doing that. But I am dust mite allergy level really high, and I have to be careful. I'm told, I actually asked a doctor if I'm dust mite sensitive, am I flea sensitive? And he says they are related, and I could be flea sensitive. So when I get bites, I tend to get swelling and interesting reactions. So yeah. Anyways, so again, just be careful with your offerings, that what you're doing is using or giving offerings to nature spirits, the fae, or what have you, that are natural and friendly for the environment and for the animals that might come in contact with it. And the plants and what have you. I tend to give offerings of mead. I like to give fruit, like strawberries or even oranges. I never give chocolate because I prefer dark chocolate, and dark chocolate is poisonous to some animals. I will sometimes give chocolate and stuff like that in offering bowls in my house. But I am in control of what animals are exposed to that, right? And I believe that there are some spirits that take the essence of things and some spirits that actually take the things. So it just depends. So just keep those things in mind in your spiritual practice to make sure that your offerings are nature friendly. We sometimes think, oh, it's so beautiful, they'll love this. I mean, if you're making a piece to go into a temple space, you can use whatever materials you want. But if you're making something that's supposed to be out in nature or part of nature or being taken in by the nature spirits, and maybe on taking care of nurturing animals of nature as well, think about if it's safe for them, if it's how it infects the environment, and other issues along those lines. I would never try to dissuade people from being involved in doing offerings within your practice. I'm a big believer in offerings. Not just a believer, I feel very strongly about having a back in like a relationship, not just a spiritual practice, but a relationship of give and take within a spiritual practice or a spiritual path. And for me, even though a lot of my practice is narrowed down to my divination practice and um, prayers, I've been starting to try to reconnect. I am a nature sensitive and nature empath. Um, and so, or I guess they call it earth impact. And so I am very much affected by vibrations and earth events and weather pattern stuff and major consciousness events that can be accidents, it can be major natural phenomenon that is destructive or shifting or all those different kinds of things. I have been aware of that kind of energy since I was a child. I think it's a combination of my sensory issues with it's just a combination of mundane physical things I experience with an awareness spiritually. And again, I don't consider myself unique. I know that I am part of only a certain percentage of people that have it, the sensitivity to the levels that I have it, but I do not consider myself unique in this. I think some people handle it better than others. I think some people have a better biochemistry to handle certain reactions better than others and can live a more what I call mundane or normal life. I am on the side where I tend to move slower. I tend to live at a slightly different vibrational rate than everybody else. And I don't believe that I'm the only one. I just don't know a lot of other people who vibrate or basically have the same kind of current pattern than I do. And it comes out as learning disability, vibrational sensitivity, all kinds of interesting methods or labeling that you can say. I just don't stream like the mainstream, basically. And I find it affects me in the work environment, in relationships, in interacting with even just the physical space around me with Mother Earth and a lot of different areas. And some places are more friendly for me, and some places I barely tolerate and just get through it. And other places are just horrendous. It can be very hard. And when you can't handle being medicated because of the side effects, or it makes it so you can function even less than you already were, it makes it even harder to participate in a relationship, to help with raising your children, to have a regular job. I can't claim to have like some physically huge disability like missing a limb or whatever, but I do have limitations on what I can focus on and actually do in a successful manner, because I can't just focus on say one thing. And the only time I feel like I don't have pressure on me is when there's like a brown or a blackout, which is like when the electric currents that go through our power companies goes out for a while. And then I have such an alleviation of pressure on my whole system, on my body, on my brain, on my head. Everything feels lifted and free, and just I can think for a while without struggling to maintain. And that is really hard to, I mean, I just said all that, but unless you experience something similar to that, people are like, what are you talking about? That just sounds insane, blah, 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 blah. But my kids asked me just the other day, I don't exactly remember why or how it came up, but my older son was like, Mom, have you ever had an MRI? And I was like, actually, yeah, I did once. And he's like, well, did they find anything? Why did you get an MRI? And I said, well, we had a couple of electrical outages back in Utah, and I had noticed that I would feel differently. Like I would have less pressure on my head. when there were electrical outages. So I was concerned that I had an issue, anything from like a brain tumor to something else going on with my senses. And so it was suggested I should get an MRI to check. So I got one done, and it turns out that they found in between the spheres of my brain a fatty growth that's benign. But it is, from what I understand, can be vibrationally sensitive. It is also why I feel pressure in my head. It's not growing anymore, but it is benign and it's there, and causing a bit of pressure. And so when I have all this vibration coming at me, I feel it more. Okay. So that's one level. I don't know how much space is freely up there. I don't know how big the growth is or anything like that. I just know that I have one. And they told me it was benign. And he's like, well, did you get it taken out? And I was like, well, no, that's a far more serious thing than just having them take pictures of my body. And it can possibly do damage trying to get it out. Because they could tell it was between the hemispheres, but they didn't tell me whether it was attached to the hemispheres or what was going on there. It's just like a fatty growth in between the two spheres from what they said. So yeah, there's those funny, quirky things that make me a little different. But I, again, don't feel like I'm that unique. I've heard of odd, benign growths in other people too. So anyways, I just wanted to touch in for a minute on some of the random stuff that was going on recently, like the Dragon Age thing, my awareness of people using non-friendly stuff, non-nature-friendly stuff as part of their offerings and interactions with spirit. I also have a huge issue with people using, it's a personal preference, and my understanding, it's not just a personal preference, it is how nature spirits feel that these people use like metal knives, iron, and stuff like that in their ritual worship or practices when they're trying to interact and flow with the Fae. Now, if you're working with like maybe gnomes, like Fae that are connected to metals, maybe that's fine. But if you're working with water spirits, plant spirits, air, flyer type energy, sky energy, I really have never felt, matter of fact, when I first started working with nature energy, I was pulled very strongly away from metal objects. They're like, no, we're not going to come near you if you're using a sword, if you're using a knife, if you're using metal stands. No, we're not coming anywhere near your space. They gave me a very strong feeling that they wanted like wooden or ceramic bowls or utensils, that they begrudgingly were okay with me with a fire starter that was like, the long tipped ones, but they didn't really like that either. They would prefer me using matches or even a short lighter, which I found, I understood it, but I was like, well, it's easier for me to do this, and I sometimes have issues with my hands. So that was a compromise I made with them, as long as I did not direct the tool towards them or used it as part of the main ritual working and focus. That, yeah, for lighting the candles, that's fine. Or lighting the incense and then putting it away and then using the candles from then on for the rest of the ritual work, that was fine. So yeah, just think about your practice. How much of it are you doing just because it's convenience? How much of it is what you've been directed to do by this nature spirits and the what you're really feeling in practice? Maybe you're a totally different pagan or path where metals are more than welcome in your path. Mine are not so much. I work with nature energy. I work with Mother Earth. I work with animal energy, and they don't like metal instruments. They don't like iron or mixed metals. I have found less resistance to things like copper or brass, but things that are more like iron or steel, or things that they feel come in weaponry and things like that, they don't welcome that at all in my spiritual space. And that is not me going, oh, I don't want a knife. I actually had a really cool wavy bladed dragon athame at one point, and they're like, oh, that's pretty, but no, don't want that near us. We're not going to come any closer or participate if you're using that. So you really need to tune in and see if the tools and the offerings are really in sync with the beings that you're working with, be it the earth or whatnot. Okay. Just wanted to put that out there. If you have any opinions on that or any insight into that, feel free to share and talk and what have you. If you like the subjects I brought up, please like or dislike. And I'm not going to go much further on because I know I'm just going to ramble and go in weird directions. I am feeling a little better this week. It's been an interesting week because the cats just barely this weekend started coming more closer to me and coming to sleep with me or spend time with me. At first, they were really confused about where Cat was, and I totally understood that. And now they're trying to be closer to me, and they sniff a lot of her spots and look around for her, but they're also seeking me out and trying to understand as well. And that's been an interesting shift. And so, yeah, life continues. And if anyone here does D&D and has some tips for a mom helping her sons get into it, please feel free to comment as well. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. And I will cue in when I have something interesting to talk about, or you'll just hear from me next weekend or next Monday, maybe. Okay. All right. Hugs to everybody. I was going to pull a card for you, but I'm not feeling it right now. So maybe I will get back on a little bit later today or tomorrow and do a special video just on a reading for everybody for this week. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Have a great week. And there we go. There's the button.